We are now live.
Hey.
Go with it, Joe.
Thank you, Aisha. Good afternoon, everyone, and a very big welcome to Rayya Ghul. I've not met you before, but I've heard such wonderful things. Also, going to be talking about Rayya's new book. I don't know if you can get a picture of that, and you'll see the title is running across the bottom of the screen. So I'm kind of like I always start when I meet other solution-focused professionals. Rayya, is when did you first come across it, and when did you suddenly realise that actually this is the way I want to work from now
on? It was sort of by accident, really. I'd had a couple of children and I'd had a career break, and I went back to working in a mental health team in Kent. I used to be an occupational therapist, and hadn't worked as an OT for maybe about 3 years or so, and so I felt a bit rusty. A lot of things felt like they'd changed. This was in the early 90s, and my boss had said, you know, you can go on a training course if you like, and I was thinking, I have no idea what training course to go on. And you know how you get these leaflets through the, you know, they just come through touting for training business, and actually, I'd been at some kind of CPD event or a meeting, and I'd been talking to people saying, what do you do then with you? And this woman had said, oh, I do mainly brief therapy. And I was like, oh, I have no idea what that is, you know, and I felt really even more kind of, you know, inexperienced. And then this leaflet came through from What's Now Brief, say, you know, for solution-focused brief therapy. And I thought, oh, brief therapy, that's that thing that OT talked about. So I just signed up. I had a zero idea and understanding of what it was. And so I went along to this course, and little knowing that it would transform my life. So, yeah.
So at what point, because I know when we first trained it, the initial couple of days was like, I don't really get it. I don't know if this is going to be helpful. I just wondered, at what point did you think, actually, no, this is right for me. It's a right fit for me.
Well, I think I mean it was a bit of a struggle for me to actually learn to use it, because emotionally I was very, very attached to being clever and right and know it all. I mean, you know, I still have those qualities. Anyone that knows me knows this. That occasionally I come across, you know, like I'm yeah, that's true. Everyone who knows me is watching this go, yeah, you are. I know this about myself. However, to be a solution-focused brief therapist, I had to give that up, and it was quite a painful process, because it was a real kind of like realization that in order to be solution-focused, you really have to be step down, not the expert, and actually not be sitting there the whole time trying to work out what the other person's saying or doing, that you then go away and analyze and then regurgitate your solutions to them, because that's how I'd been trained. And so I think that was one really big thing for me, because I think personally it was a liberation for me from this survival mechanism that I'd developed from when I was a child. But I think the other thing was it's a really, really good fit with occupational therapy, because occupational therapy is all about working what people can do. It's about creating small, achievable goals that take you through activity into being able, you know, it kind of is. It's like you're always looking for just the perfect level of the task, so that it's got enough challenge, but not too little, so you're not either bored or give up too easily. So that's the kind of occupational therapy mindset, that you're always thinking about what's the basic level of ability and how can we just keep building on that. So you're always looking at ability rather than disability. And I think that is very aligned with occupational therapy. And I think actually, I mean, for me as an occupational therapist, I think there are lots of links. So, for example, in solution focus, when you're getting people to describe in granular detail how they will be doing things or what they will be noticing about what they're doing, you know, that kind of granular detail, that is very much what OTs do when they're thinking about how to work with someone and get them where they need to go. The fantastic thing about solution focus is you get your clients to do that for you.
Yeah.
They do it for themselves, but basically not for you, but they do it for themselves. So all of a sudden, that responsibility is divested from you, and you can relax much more as a clinician and help. You know, OTs love enabling. They want other people to do it. They're the ones that stand back and make people struggle, and they don't go in and say, "Oh, can I help you?" As I've often said, we're not a helping profession. We're the arts profession. So, oops, I just swear that.
Sorry.
So I think from that perspective, solution focus is really well aligned to that. So I think that was what really did it for me was kind of seeing that connection. And then I think the other thing that really convinced me was using it and just seeing what happened. It was just wild. It was just absolutely extraordinary, the difference. It was just, and I just wanted to rush off and see all my ex-clients and go, come back, you know.
Actually, Joe and I have felt that way since we've been solution focused practitioners. We kind of look back at the clients that we used to work with in a very problem focused way, and with regret, almost want to call them, say, "I'm so sorry, I let you down."
I know, and I know that feeling, but I have to say, you know, when I was doing all that work, you know, I was doing my absolute best, and it was with the best of intentions, and a lot of the time I did do always really good work, and I always think a lot of times that the people who really get into solution focus probably were sneaking towards that anyway. They didn't have a language for it, or because I think once you've worked for a lot, this when I do training, I find it you know, I find it really much easier to train people who've been working in mental health for a long time, because they know that a lot of the stuff they do doesn't really work, and they are really desperate to find stuff that really does work. So I find that's quite often quite a good way in. It's like a lot of the work you do works, but sometimes you come across these bumps, and you feel that, don't you? If you're a practitioner, you feel sad that you haven't been able to help someone. So to be able to think, oh, there is this alternative way of working, and I think that's what a lot of people do, is they start off with trying it out when other things fail, and then eventually you just end up just doing it all the time.
So you've what type of delegates do you train at the moment, Ryan?
I don't do a huge amount. I mean, is that true? The reason I wrote a self-help book was because I no longer have an active practice. So I moved out of clinical work into university teaching occupational therapy, and now I'm not even doing that anymore. I teach university lecturers how to teach. But the main people that I teach, and what I've been doing at the university, is I teach personal tutors how to use solution-focused conversations with tutees to help them, mentor them, coach them in their studies, PhD supervisors. And the other thing I've been doing, which is really, really exciting, which I'm very excited about, because I'm really into teaching peers to talk to each other, is I've been working with the Student Association. They have these peer working schemes where second year students are kind of buddied with first year students, and or different ways of peer working that they do to help students help each other. And they were really desperate. The students were asking for kind of mental health training, and quite rightly, it was like not appropriate to teach students how to counsel each other. But I just sort of put my hand up and I said, well, I know they really want this, but we could use this. This is different. It's not counselling, and it doesn't require people to ask questions that are delving into their kind of maybe more traumatic aspects of their experience and talking about it a lot. How about we try that? They said, yeah. And so that's one of the things I've been doing, is I've been training students to talk to each other, and I've had a really fantastic response from that. It's been really exciting. And then the other thing that I've been involved in for the last nearly 12 years now, which did start off when I was working down in Kent. I live in Scotland now, live in Edinburgh, was that I worked with what was originally a patients forum in mental health, and they've basically turned themselves into a peer support organisation, and I think it's still probably the only one in the country which is entirely service user led, and they run everything. It's all run by service users. Everyone from the director downwards, the trustees, everyone is a mental health service user. They sort of let me in because they think that I might probably have been an escapee, somehow managed to escape the system. But basically, I basically just help them with little tiny grants here and there to develop and to kind of grow. And I taught them. Initially, they were looking at doing peer support brokerage. Do you remember when all those independent payment stuff? And so I trained them in using solution focus to help people to identify what they might want to use the independent payments for. But then it just developed into peer support work. And so they basically train all of their peer support workers in solution focused conversation. And that's a really successful organisation. It's called Takeoff, and that's been one of the things that I really love to be involved in. So that's that kind of thing I'm really interested in. It's like people doing it for themselves and creating kind of resilience within communities, so that communities can use a more constructive way of talking to each other to solve each other's difficulties and find better ways through, that isn't kind of based on the necessity to spend number one, hours talking about what's wrong. Secondly, it's not based on having to fix anything. And I think those two things are really, really useful for people who are trying to get on with their lives. And if you can take a whole swathe of people away from the need to engage with services, then you're reducing stress on services, but also you're reducing the impact of being involved in a service on somebody's life, which isn't always, it's not always negative, but it's not always benign. But also, people get records from involved with services, which are quite, they're more subtle than criminal records. I mean, for example, if you've ever been to your doctor, your GP for, complaining of something like OCD and had some kind of secondary treatment, like you've been referred to a therapist, that information gets passed on to employers if you go through a DBS. Most people don't know that. Wow. It's not, it's like that you can be asked about. So being involved in services is not quite as transparent as. That simply, I'm unwell and I need some help.
And I guess, was that the motivation behind your new book then, Rayya, for people to be able to initially see if they can have those useful conversations without requiring outside support?
Yeah, or you might reach a point where you think, I do need some outside support, but hopefully you'll go and see a solution-focused therapist. No, absolutely. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, you kindly sent me your book, which I did show off to Joe because it's personally signed to me, guys. Just letting you know, it was a rough start to my day, wasn't it? I sent you a very long message. This happened and this happened and this happened and this happened, but then I received this in the post. And I actually, and everyone that knows me knows that if I receive a very long email or if I have to read a book, Joe reads it, then summarizes it. And then I thank him, and then he curses me for having to do it, and then we move on. But I actually read the book in 3 hours. I was really upset with myself for not reading it before. But it's such a good book to help you on your journey into the SF world, really, the solution-focused world. Because as we said, once you're in it, you can't come out of it. But I could not stop reading. It was such a good read. And it was a very easy read, but not because, you know, it's a dummy's guide. It was definitely an Aisha's guide. It was just right for me. Just right. There might be a dummy's guide. Everything was there from touching upon, you know, being problem focused to the difference of being solution focused, to changing your mindset and looking at things completely differently, and the differences that would make to individuals and also to the people around them. Everything was covered, and it was just such a good read. I know Joe hasn't read it yet, but he will be reading it.
On my list. Yeah,
it's on his list. He's got like 1,000 books, which he will read and then summarize to me. But it was absolutely brilliant. I absolutely loved it. So anyone thinking of even researching into solution focus, please do go on Amazon, The Power of the Next Small Step. Buy it, because I cannot highly recommend it enough. But yeah, so thank you for writing that book. I feel like it was just for me. It was just right.
That's lovely. I mean, it's really, it was, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to explain. I've been thinking about it for ages, actually. Again, people who might know me know that I've been talking for a long time about making solution focused available to the mainstream in the way that other, you know, when you read magazines and stuff, you know, they've got articles that say, oh, you can use these techniques. And people use like bits of CBT or the bits that they've nicked from Buddhism, you know, and other things. They, you know, that sort of filters through to the general population. And so that was one reason that I wanted to write it. And the other reason was because people had started using the term solution focus. And in fact, some of the other therapy groups had started using the term solution focus. And I thought, ooh, you know, we're going to lose this. We're going to lose this because the general public don't know what the difference is. So I thought, right, I'm going to write a book and put it on the map. Now, my book doesn't have a big enough circulation to really, you know, and I'm not the, you know, to be fair, nobody's rung me up and asked for, you know, interviews in the national papers. I am available.
Call her. Call her.
But, you know, this is, you know, what I did is, so those are the two main motivations. But when I started writing it, I kind of thought, number one, that I wanted to talk to people. I thought, I kept thinking about somebody who might be reading it. And I was thinking, number one, they might be reading it because they're distressed. They might be reading it because they're at the end of their tether. They're feeling awful. And I don't know about anyone else, but when I'm in that state, I'm not very good at focusing. I find it really hard to focus. And a lot of self-help books are written in very small type. And there's lots of really, you know, kind of like ideas and detail and stuff. And you have to kind of really work through it. And I mean, I have quite a lot of self-help books on the shelf because I review them and sometimes I've used them myself. And a lot of them are only half read because, you know, because I haven't really, it's been hard to get through them. So I have to say that I wrote this book in big type.
Yeah.
Right? It's in big type. And I tried very hard to make the sense easy to, you know, using plain English. And as you say, I hope it's true. It's not dumbed down, but it is. And I've also tried to talk really directly to people. I've used you a lot and so on.
It felt like a conversation. Whilst I was reading it, it did feel like it felt like I was having a conversation. And I found myself doing this a lot. You know, when you're nodding, it's like someone's watching me. I found myself nodding in agreement, but not because from one SF practitioner to another, but as almost a service user, just kind of looking at it going, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And And that was amazing. But when Joe opened the book and I said, Joe, look, I've read the book. It's brilliant. He opened the book and I went, yeah, right up your street. Right up your street, you.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, I just did my best to try and make it as visible and friendly as possible, you know, based on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy principle, really. And then, you know, little things like I thought, well, if you're kind of, I mean, people like memes, don't they? And so I did things like this.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Which was just to pull out phrases here and there so that they could, you know, you could kind of hook on them. And then sometimes, you know, you might, you know, when you're just looking, you might just flick through.
Yep.
And it gives you something to sort of focus on. So yeah, that was
10 out of 10 from me there, mate.
really nice.
10 out of 10.
I think the thing I'm really proud of in the book actually are the myths, the myth busting.
Yeah.
That's a bit for me that because I'd written the entire book without that section.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was you know, I wrote the whole book without that section, and then I just read it and I just thought, this is so boring. And not only that, but it's like, why would anyone do this stuff? Why would you do it? Why would you sit down and say, oh, you know, what's my preferred future, or what would I like to have happen in the, you know, it wasn't, you know, I just thought there's nothing here that would make you want to read it or understand why you would even think about doing any of the exercises. And so I thought about what it's like to be in a solution-focused therapy session, or, you know, anyone that's solution-focused in any kind of setting. And I think the thing is that really good solution-focused practitioners, right from the outset, you just get the sense that they care about you, number one, but also that they respect you and that they have faith in you. And that's through a whole series of quite subtle things that are not simply just the questions. It's the way you smile at someone. It's the way you say, sit down. It's just that whole manner where you're treating the other person as an equal. You're there to help, but not to patronize. There's a whole load of that subtle stuff that I think you develop as a solution-focused practitioner because you realize that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can see the difference that it makes.
Yeah. Because when I started being a solution-focused practitioner, it was like all my clients became like super clients. all the rubbish clients that that had been really hard to work with and weren't doing what they were told, they didn't seem to come and see me anymore. So obviously, you know, they're the ones I'd like to invite back and apologize to. But it's like you suddenly think, oh my goodness, you know, all these people are so resourceful, they're so amazing, and you know, they're trying so hard to get on in their lives, and they're making some terrible choices about how to do that. It's getting them even further into trouble. But that's not because they're not motivated to get a better life. It's because they've never been asked the right questions to help them think in a way about what's going to work. So that was you know, that idea for me was that, well, how do you convey that in a book? How can you convey that? Because to me, that's the essence of solution focus, is the shift from seeing people as flawed, as having something that they need to have fixed. And I started thinking a lot about how could I convey that. And in my training, I had moved, you know, through the sort of 20 odd years that I'd been a trainer, I'd moved from teaching techniques to getting people to understand the difference between problem focus and a solution focus, without, I have to say, creating a sense that problem focus was wrong, because sometimes it's right. Because if you've got a problem, a really good way to solve it is with a problem focused approach. You know, it's like, as an OT, I might have gone into some, you know, I worked in mental health, but sort of a classic OT activity which we all get trained in is to see if someone needs help getting on and off the toilet. You know, if someone needs to get on and off the toilet, they either can do it or they can't, and so that's a problem. And you solve it by either adding something in or teaching them a different technique, or, you know, whatever. There will be a solution to that problem. But most of so from the trainings, what I was trying to convey is that an awful lot of the stuff that our clients end up talking to us about, are not strictly speaking problems. So they're messes. They're messy, complex situations. And then the other thing that I've kind of, I've thought about a lot was that is if you use a problem-solving approach, you're trying to use a problem-solving approach, number one, on a situation which is complex. And in order to solve a problem, you have to be able to pick that whole situation apart and find the bit which you need to either fix, or find a bit that you want to take away, or what you're going to add in. And that's almost impossible when you're dealing with complexity. It's fine, a complicated system like a machine, you can still do that with. You can still deal with something that's complicated as a problem, but you can't deal with something that's complex because there are too many intersections and it's dynamic. So you can't use that problem-solving approach. And that's when I think the solution focus is really, really useful. So you've got that already within, a system, something, a situation. But actually more problematic than that is when you start to use that problem-solving approach on a person. Because in order to use the problem-solving approach, you are looking necessarily for what's gone wrong. So you're looking for something to fix, you're looking for something to take away, you're looking for something to add in that you can help. That might be advice, for example. Advice is an add-in. Taking away, all those negative thoughts. We'll have to work to get rid of those, or or fixing it. Well, you've your anger is not very. We need to fix that. Whatever these things are, and instantly, what you've done is you've created the person as the problem.
Yeah.
And even worse than that, I think, is that the whole load of us have grown up with this kind of mentality. Yeah. So we all think we're problems. We all think of ourselves as a problem. And we're constantly thinking about, stuff that we need to fix. So we have these thoughts, which is, I'm not good enough. I need to develop my willpower before I can do whatever it is. I need to stop doing this. And that's what we're constantly doing. We're constantly wasting all of our energy on this utterly pointless task because we are complex. We are complex beings ourselves. We're completely changing the entire time. In every situation we're in, we are bouncing off the environment, you're bouncing off other people, situations, whatever. And you are constantly bringing out different things about yourself emerge. This idea that we're some sort of container that's fixed, and that's who we are. You only have to really reflect on that for about 2 seconds to see how ridiculous that is. So
I told you you'd like her, Joe.
so how can you can't use them when we're not washing machines, as I say. We're not a washing machine. You can't go and get a man to sort of say, oh, let me find out what, oh, look, it's a button. It's a button. It was that button all the time. I've taken it out and it'll be fine now. That does not work on people. So unless you really, really genuinely get that and get what happens when you do that, like, if you have to think like that in a family, I know you work with families, but it's very easy then if you've got maybe a child who you feel is, a friction in the family for some reason, to say, is to say that they're the problem. And then you have a description of the problem, which must inevitably be based on, something that needs fixing, something that needs taking away, or something that needs adding. So that's how people are talked about. But again, even worse than that, is that if you can't find those things, you start to make them up. So you might start to say things like, oh, I think they've got, attention deficit disorder, or I think they're doing that because this happened to them once upon a time. That's just made up stuff. And that, I think, is where it starts getting really difficult. And I don't blame people for doing that, because if you look at the media, if you look at television programs, that's that kind of psychological problem-solving approach has, even though many psychologists have given that up, it's still permeated out into the public. and it influences the way that we think about ourselves. So we've been basically conditioned into these views. So I don't blame anyone for actually doing that. But what I would like to invite people to do is to think, is that really serving me? And if I know that there might be a different way of approaching people and situations, would that be worth trying out? Because that would stop us from having to be completely bound up in this awful, awful web where we're constantly getting at ourselves and using all of that valuable energy for life in trying to fix something that doesn't even need fixing. So that, I think, explains why I then thought, how am I going to do this? And I thought, well, I have to put in this section, which I've called myth busting, which busts those myths that, you know, that you have to be perfect to start making things better. You have to change and so on. I can't remember them all off by heart, but even though I wrote it. But you can read the book and find them out. But so that's what that's obviously, you can tell, I'm really passionate about, is getting people to that point where they think, okay, I'm here in my life. What has got me to this stage has got me here. I'm still here. You know, there are things that are not the way exactly the way I want them, but actually I'm not going to spend any more of my precious time trying to work out how to fix everything. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do something different, which is I'm going to put all of my energy into thinking about how I would like things to be better and thinking about what I can do right now to start to move towards that. And I'm going to notice what works. And that's the real key. It's not about just setting goals and whatever. You're not a fortune teller. You have no idea what is going to work yet because you haven't tried out different things, but you notice what works. So, you know, I mean, I've got kids. I was a single parent for a lot of my life, and I've got 2 kids. And when I discovered Solution Focus, I mean, they're really lucky kids, not because they had me as my mum, but because their mum learnt Solution Focus. Because that's what I did. It's like when kids grow, you know what happens. It's like you try and work out how to manage whatever it is they're doing right now, and then bingo, it works. And you think, right, it's great. And then what do? They grow a little bit, they develop, and they change. And the thing that you did that worked doesn't work anymore. And it's like, oh, now what? You know, because you think there's this kind of fixed point where you've got into your parenting, you've got it nailed down, and then everything changes. It's a nightmare. So that Solution Focus, I think, gives you this amazing fluidity. It gives you adaptability because you're always thinking about what works, and you don't have to be wedded to any particular thing that you're doing, because if it's not working, you need to do something different. And my children were really different to each other. They're like chalk and cheese, my kids. I've got one that literally came out of the womb laughing with her eyes wide open, going, bring it on. And I had another one who had to be, you know, coaxed out because she was like, just wanted to be in her own little, you know, just stay there in her own little quiet place. She grew up constantly in a bedroom that was always had the blinds down and sort of like hibernating in there, and the other one was always out. So, nature nurture. yeah. So I couldn't parent them the same. I couldn't parent them the same way, and I had to find out what worked for each of them. I mean, there was some basic stuff like manners. You know, if they said, I'm hungry, I'd say, that's very interesting. And then they'd say, I'm hungry, I want some food. And I'm like, really? Well, why don't you ask for some? Evil parent. And then they go, oh yeah, please may I have some? It's like, oh, okay. So those sorts of things, that was basic for them all. But actually the things that they needed in order to grow as people, I had to find that out, and I had to get to know them as people, because, you know, I think I said this on your discussion, whatever it was, that when you were saying what what thing about you're proud of being a parent or something. And me, I think that was the most important thing, was that I really always had this sense that I didn't know them as people.
Yeah.
Right from the beginning, I was like, who are you?
Yeah.
You know, what do you need? Who are you? And that was really, I mean, it made it quite exciting, because you get to know people that way, you know,
Yeah,
your children.
And it keeps us on our toes, you know, because we can't assume we know our kids. They're always changing, you know. They go through the toddler stage, then they go through the adolescent stage, and then the grown. We're always on our, and you know, with my 11-year-old that I was telling you the other day, you know. Yeah. And then you got the 4-year-old. You know, it's completely changing. Parenting does definitely have to be different for both of them.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and I just think it's just a, you know, solution focus was just really helpful to me in so many ways, and also just kind of helping them. I mean, it was really interesting. I mean, like my younger daughter, who was the one that came out, you know, going, yay, you know, party time. She's maybe watching. Be careful what I say. No, they know exactly.
Mummy loves you.
They're in their 20s. It's done, you know. She used to do the thing that kids often do when they want something, and they come racing in and they babble at you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'd sort of, you know, I'd look at her and I'd say, it might be something really important that you're trying to tell me here, but the way you're saying it is making it really hard for me to hear it. So just pop outside and think of a better way, one that might work better for me, and come back in again and try. And she'd walk off, and she'd come back in, and then she'd be like all calm, and she always did this thing where she'd put her hands together like this, and she'd say, please, mummy, can Katie and Mary, or whatever they were called, come round to play? I promise I'll tidy my room before they come.
Wow.
Just to get her to tidy up her room.
Well,
I do something very similar. So if my daughter comes in and starts babbling and I'm like, do you want to, or you know, she's 11, hormonal, she comes in, Mom, you know, the whole Kevin and Perry started to kind of happen. And then I'll just say, do you want to say that again, but say it in a way that I'm going to be happy to hear? And then she'll stop, and then she'll say, okay, Mum, can I, and then she'll start again. And I'll just completely ignore the first version. I don't make a big deal about it. I'll just ignore it.
And I think that idea of, you know, what's working, finding what's working, what works, and do more of it is a really useful tool to teach your children.
Yeah.
But that way you're teaching them, you know, that flexibility, that ability to think, oh, what's going to work here? Makes them manipulative geniuses, obviously, but you know, hopefully in an ethical way.
I just
why she put her hands together like that?
Yeah.
Make you feel sorry for her.
I just feel, you know, even though I am a solution focused practitioner in essence, and I am quite solution focused. After reading that book, it just got me more excited, because I just thought this is just, and I said to Joe, you know, everyone must read it. All our volunteers, all our members of staff. So I'm actually going to buy some in for some of the parents, because I just think there are so many parents that we work with that have been labelled with, you know, they're being very difficult, they don't want change, they're doing this on purpose. Yeah. But actually, the fact that they're there, the fact that they're willing to come to our meetings every week is saying something. And I think it's those parents that I'm going to be like, you know what, I'm going to give you a gift because I value you and I know you want the best for you and your children. There you go. I just think we need to embrace it.
What I'm going to do for you, how many families do you?
Oh, Rayya, don't worry, we can buy them.
I'm going to do this. I'm going to send you 10 copies.
Oh.
I'm going to send you 10 copies that you can give away to your families.
Oh, Rayya, you don't have to.
It's Rayya. Get my
name right.
Rayya. I'm not going to send you anything.
I'm going now.
It's all right. Just teasing you. Everyone gets my name wrong. Don't worry about it. No, I will, because I think the
that's
work
lovely.
you're doing is so important and so exciting. And if people find the book useful, then I'd love to donate some to you. I'll arrange that. We can sort that out later. But
thank you.
But yeah, I'll do that. It's also, I don't know if you've got any random Swedish families.
Oh, it's in Swedish as well.
Oh, look at you getting all international.
There's a Danish version coming out as well soon.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Very exciting. And possibly a German one too. There's been a German translation.
Sehr good.
Sehr good. I am so thrilled that people find it useful, because that's all really that I am interested in is being useful. And that was one of the things that was like a bit heartbreaking when I, for various reasons, had to give up the clinical side of work and stuff, was not having that contact. I mean, I do now see people occasionally on Zoom and stuff like that, but mostly I'm doing other sorts of work. So for me, the book was the way to just keep that connection with trying to just be helpful. I grew up for many years having really, really negative ideas about myself for various reasons. It wasn't just my parents. Well, they didn't help, frankly. But anyway,
I can't do this.
But and it was for me, the liberation that I felt from that burden of having to try and fix myself, and the way that my life changed as a result afterwards, was so profound for me that it breaks my heart to think that there are people out there that do not realize that actually their energy is better spent on just getting on with their lives and using a methodology and a way of living that really helps them to work out what they need to be doing. What's the most effective thing to be doing. It's a technology for living, which is just phenomenal, I think, solution focus. It's different. What I do and the way that I convey it through the book and so on is different to being a therapist. I mean, that is a different thing. And when I'm in my therapist role, it is different. There's a different power balance. It's different. There's an inevitability about that. And I have worked, I worked in frontline mental health services. I worked in community. I worked in tertiary. So I worked on wards. I've worked in forensic. I've worked all over using solution focus. So, but for me, I am most interested in helping communities to develop that kind of resilience, or that kind of the ability to help themselves and help each other in a way that means that they really don't ever have to go into the services unless it's absolutely necessary. Because to me, it's like, that's just awful to my mind, that there are people who think that they cannot, work their own lives, and that they feel that they're constantly getting the message that they're incapable. That's heartbreaking to me, and that's what I want to do is with the book. That's what I wanted to do with the book, was to say, have a go and see if this works better for you.
I think it's written in such a way that people can't help but try and look at their challenges differently.
I hope so.
I sincerely say that, and honestly, Joe knows that I used to read a lot of books, but in the last few years, I just can't. Well, I have been
children.
Yeah,
you know, children at the age of 12.
Come on. I mean, I have recently been reading a lot more, but it is amazing. But I just want to read something that Gil Green. How can you not know Gil Green?
Mm-hmm.
You know Gil Green. Gil Green. Joe and I have adopted him as our granddad.
Okay.
He's just written, I love your passion. He's talking about you. I love your passion for SFBT, as well as your humor and charisma. I have a copy of your book, but I admit I have not read it yet. Gil.
Get reading.
I will now
reading.
Yeah, Gil, come on. I will now have to put it on top of my stack of books to read. And if you ever have a Zoom meeting with Gil, you'll see he has mountains of books.
Yeah, I've got my camera position so you can't see those.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So yeah, thanks for that, Gil. You two are amazing. But I think you guys, whoever we've spoken to so far, via email, via here, via Zoom, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and it's all. They're always very, very passionate, which really is.
Well, that means you fit in really well, then, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
You are amazing.
So, Rayya, are you ready? So, over the years, I'm guessing, because of all the training events you've been to, all the wonderful people that you've spoken to, there are questions that stick out for you. So I asked before we had John Wheeler, and I asked him what were his sort of top 5 solution-focused questions that he always thinks, these are the ones he always has in his back pocket. So what would be your top 5 solution-focused questions? So if families are watching and they may have going through quite a difficult time, I guess some of them at the moment, what sort of questions would you ask that you always feel that this is a great solution-focused question?
Oh, I wish you'd warned me you were going to do this.
Yeah, well.
What a nightmare.
I've read your book.
Oh, God.
Just quote your book, because they're all in there. Pick up the book. We're not judging.
It's just really interesting. It's an interesting question because I think that I find it really hard because the thing about solution focus is it's in the moment.
Yeah.
And it's like it's in the interaction. I mean, I would always initially I was a bit about the best hopes question. I'm now a complete aficionado of it. I think what are your best hopes right now for what we can do right now? That kind of is a really important question. I think in terms of I don't always ask the miracle question, but I might ask something along those lines. But I think more important is the follow up, the little granular question. So what difference will that make? I think that is one of the most powerful questions because of, like I say in my book, it gets to the heart of what you really want very quickly, because it bypasses all those words that we just use as symbols for what we want, like money, boyfriend, peace, or what, there are things like being happy. It bypasses all of those, that shorthand that we use, and it starts to get into specifics. I think thinking about that, sometimes you might want to either be thinking way beyond or right now. So you might there's sometimes as a fact when if you're working with a family, there are times when you can sit down and think, how do I want this family to be like? What do I want to have happening in this family? Which is a kind of a future dreaming of the kind of compass, the where you want to be going towards, so that you know that what you're doing now is moving you towards that ultimate kind of sense of what you would think like things to be like. And you can sit down as a family, and if there's a right time, or parents can sit down and talk to each other, or you can sit down with your friend and talk about your own family if you're not in a if you're in a single parent family, whatever, however you do that. But sometimes it's really useful to just think, what do I want to be different right now?
Yeah.
Because I know that sometimes I was like in a conflict with my children or my daughters. For some reason I'm feeling that hideous feeling of thinking, I really don't like this. She's unhappy. I'm unhappy. I don't want to be in this situation. And I would just think, what do I want to have different right now? And it would just stop, and I would just stop and say, I don't want to be doing this right now. I want to be having a conversation like this with you. And it was always, I think, pretty much like it just completely changed the dynamic. So I think that's quite a useful thing, maybe if you're in these kinds of situations where there's an intensity. It's not like being in a therapist's office where you can talk about it and then go back and so on. I think maybe those two things are. Can I just have 4? Do I have to think of another one?
Oh, you can do it.
No,
just make people read the book. There's lots of questions in there. I mean,
Yeah,
the one I really like is the computer reset button, which is that when you think that you think all these things that stop you. I can't do this because of that, or there's something wrong with me, or whatever. So I like that question about. Just imagine that you've been reset, like a computer reset, and when you've been reset, those things that hinder you are just not available to you as excuses. They've been removed. Yeah. What would you do differently?
Yeah.
How would things be different? And
when I read that, I kind of imagined all the tabs open, and then when I reset, all those tabs were gone, and it was like, okay, so there's nothing stopping me now. So what am I going to do differently?
Yeah.
Which is such a brilliant way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Joe, you must read this book.
I mean, the thing is, I got to say this, right? Because when people like me come on, and I know this is the case for all the other, amazing people you get on this. I have not always been like this. And the way I am right now is not because, I mean, I might be quite, I have some qualities, got, people might like my sense of humor. Some people don't, whatever. Those are my personal qualities. But the things that I think that you're engaging with and finding interesting are the things that I have learned from solution-focused practitioners who came before me. There is just, in my book, every book and solution focus you read has got like this whole host of acknowledgements, and mine is no different. And that is the thing about this community, I think, for me, and is that we are a product of those who came before us, and it is an enriching and privilege to have discovered it and be able to be part of it and to express it, and I think that's really important, because you might like me, and it's nice to be liked, and it's nice to feel that what I'm doing is great, but it is an expression of solution focus rather than an expression of Rayya Ghul.
And again, you saying that is just another reason why I love solution focus so much, because we are always very grateful and have a lot of gratitude for almost our ancestors in that community, and for everyone else that's here today. Brief are fantastic. Elliot, we've learned a lot from. Our Swedish friends, our Dutch friends, everyone is just absolutely fantastic. And I think Joe and I have always been very grateful, especially in this time, for meeting new people. And as unfortunate as COVID is and the lockdown is, if it hadn't been for that, we wouldn't be talking.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it? Yeah. And we've got a way to go. I mean, people might know that there is a big debate going on in the solution focused world, because we have not been inclusive. We have not been as welcoming. I mean, there are people who have not had your experience, Aisha, because of racism, basically, and other, discrimination of other forms. And we have to do better on that score, because we cannot afford to lose all those brilliant practitioners. We can't afford to do that. So that's something which I'm kind of really interested in working on now. That's another aspect of the solution-focused community, is to make sure that it isn't just the privileged few that manage to get that lovely welcome, but that we extend it further. So I'm involved in the solution-focused collective. That's something which is really important to me. I'm also on the editorial board of the Journal for Solution-Focused Practice, and we are undergoing a really big self-reflection at the moment about how we can make it truly an inclusive journal. So I think all of this work is really important, because it's not good enough yet.
And I know that Solution Focus Collective will have a we've got meetings.
We're having an action space. We had an open space last month. We're having an action space on July the 4th.
That's it. And we are waiting for the link for that, are we now, aren't we?
We are, yeah. Well, we're having a meeting tomorrow evening, and we'll generate it then, and then it'll all be loose out in the world.
When was that? July the 4th.
July the 4th, yeah.
Yes, it's on my calendar. It's on my calendar.
I think it's 1:30 to 3:30
Yeah.
standard time, and I'm afraid I don't offhand know what that is in all the other time zones.
Oh my God, I'm getting so confused.
Has got all the time zones, has got a lot of the time zones on it. So
it has.
try to create it at a time where as many people from around the world can join us.
Yeah.
We had people last time who were sort of getting up at 5 o'clock in California and staying up till 3 o'clock in New Zealand. So, you know, within all of that, hopefully.
But it was brilliant. I really did enjoy the last one, and I'm looking forward to the one in July. And we'll definitely be joining. But I think I think that's the first time I saw you actually. But then when I followed you on Facebook, I thought, wow, I like her. I like her.
A good rant. That's what you can always count on me for a good rant.
Yeah, but I like it, and with a lot of SF practitioners, you instantly feel that warmth, and and for me anyway, I've always instantly thought, wow, they're really nice, and very sweet, and very positively curious, and Joe and I are very curious, which is why we have FBS Chat, and also to show off SF to the world, but. My experience of all the webinars and Zoom calls and everything I've had so far in terms of solution focus have been absolutely fantastic. And I hope and pray that everybody will have those experiences. And unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about yesterday, but we have to move forward and we have to make it as inclusive as possible to support every single one of us. So that's my best hope, really.
Great.
And Rayya, your book is almost bringing it to the masses, so it's very inclusive in that way, and not just the way it's written, but it's something that anyone can pick up and access and give a go, and I think it's going to be really empowering for people.
I hope so. Maybe I should try and promote it a bit better.
Yes, we should talk about that. Yeah, it's incredible. Right, we're done.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
I think you're amazing. Joe, what do you think?
Thank you so much, Rayya. It's been a pleasure to meet you. And again, another passionate speaker, and it just lights a fire. It keeps that fire burning, which was always there, but it's just nice when you speak to other people and you realise I'm not the only one.
Well, you're not, and you are the new. You are the people who are going to carry it on. I'm close to retirement, folks. So we need people like you, and it's great that you're interested and you're pushing forwards with solution focus. Great. Enjoy it. Enjoy every minute of the journey.
We will.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Rayya. Change your name. That would solve the problem.
All right, I'm going to tell you a little quick story. When my daughter was born, I couldn't think of a name for her. I phoned my mum and she said, "Have you got a name yet?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, make sure it's something that's easy to spell and easy to pronounce." And I said, "Oh, you learnt your lesson from my name." And she went, "What are you talking about?" She said, "It's so obvious." Living with it. Anyway, I called my daughter Nashira.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, you definitely went there. And what a beautiful name that is.
The other one's Miranda, which is also beautiful. Anyway.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. But please stay there for a minute while I just end the broadcast, because we want to thank you personally. But thank you everyone for watching, and I will be sharing this on YouTube and tagging everyone into it. But you guys are amazing. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.